Okay, everyone. Hello, everyone. So in this demo, I'm going to show you how to convert the pencil drawing into a vector image on Adobe Illustrator. So let me just adjust the lighting a little bit. So for the first project, we are going to need to create a lot of hand-drawn graphics, and obviously not everyone owns an iPad or digital drawing tablet. So if you don't have one of those, one of these skills, you can convert the pencil drawing and then scan the pencil drawing and then put it up to the Illustrator to create a really nice vector graphics. So let's get into it. I'm gonna explain what the vector image is, but for now I'm just gonna get on to the demo. So for the demo, I'm just gonna draw a simple apple. So I'm using a pen and now pencil, and let's say I want to draw a nice looking apple like this. This is looking like a cupcake now, but this is something like this. And then like that. Okay, so I got an apple. It doesn't really, right now, if we were to take a picture and then scan it, it's not going to work very well because the line is too thin. So I'm going to take a Sharpie, or you can use a pen, but I noticed that Sharpies work better. The thicker line, one of those thicker Sharpies work better. So I'm just going to go over the line. Make sure that you close all these lines here, gaps here. So I'm gonna close that gap right there. Just like that. Okay. Then over here. Last but not least, draw this. Okay, so that is nice looking apple. So now I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and next thing we're gonna do is grab an eraser. Give me 1 second. Oh, there you go. Get an eraser, and I'm gonna clean the lines, the pencil lines only. So you probably done this already before, but this is how you convert the pencil drawing to pen drawing. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna erase the pencil lines so that when we scan it, the unnecessary pencil line is not shown. We only want that nice Sharpie line or pen line. So I'm gonna erase this. Okay, this should be nice and clean. So, alrighty, so we got our drawing of an apple. So now we're gonna go in and take a picture of this drawing. So when you take a picture, make sure that you use you take a picture in a well lit area, or use one of those flash on the camera. If you don't have a camera that comes with a flash, you can always take a picture during the day with a lot of sunlight. Make sure that the paper and everything is clean. There's no shadow, or there's no smudge or stain. So clean black and white paper would do nicely. So I'm gonna pull out my camera real quick. I'm using just an iPhone, and notice that I have a shadow, so I don't want that. So I'm gonna try to take a picture of this without any shadow. In fact, I'm gonna use, actually I don't know how to use the flash in this camera, but I think this is good enough. So I'm gonna take a picture, and then I'm gonna bring this the picture that I just taken into the computer and then onto the Illustrator. Okay, so now we're in Illustrator. Now we're gonna create a canvas that is around, say, 3000 pixels by 3000. So I'm gonna go over here and select pixels right here, and then we're gonna type in 3000 by no, that's not 3000 might be too big, so let's go with 1000 by 1000 pixel, and we're gonna go with the RGB here. So CMYK is for printed media, which we're not going to be doing. So RGB is for digitally showing image. So for instance, a computer screen or phone screens or tablets, etc. So we're gonna work with the RGB here, and it's giving me this. From the cursor defined by the document profile. Well, let's go to web here then. Let's select web here. Let's type in, make sure that it's pixels, 1000 by 1000, and RGB color, and raster effect is we want to select as a screen 72, preview mode default, and that is good to go. So let's create. And now, oh, what's going on? Let me create a new one. Oh yeah, that's 10,000 instead of just 1000. So I'm gonna create 1000 by 1000. So here, what I like to do first is I don't like this interface. So I'm gonna workplace. I'm gonna change to Essential Classic right here. So that is on top menu right here, Window, Workspace, and Essential Classic. Okay, alrighty. So we have our canvas here, which is 1000 pixel by 1000 pixel. So next thing we want to do is we're going to drag the folder, the drawing that we just got. I'm going to drag and drop here. It says copy. And then we got this nice looking apple. So notice that this is, we need to rotate it. So what we can do is, right after you drag and drop the photo, you can move it around just by clicking and then move it around. Also, what else you can do is you can bring your cursor to the side here. You notice that this cursor changes to the this. That means that you can rotate your objects. So we're gonna rotate it to 90 degree. But if you wanna get the perfect 90 degree, you can hold down the shift on your keyboard, and then it'll lock on 45 increments. So we're gonna rotate 90 degree, and here we go. So that is good looking apple. So now how are we going to convert this into vector image? So before I do that, I'm gonna explain what vector and raster image is. So most thing that we encounter is raster image. So raster image is consists of a lot of pixels. So if I were to zoom in really closely, you will see all these little squares, which is pixels. So this is consists of millions of pixels to create this visual graphic. Whereas raster graphic, which Adobe Illustrator is made for, doesn't work that way. So it's all mathematically calculated. So if I were to create a circle like this, no matter how much I zoom in, it's gonna stay crisp and nice because it's not pixelated. Because this is mathematically calculated. So even if I zoom in all the way in, I can't zoom in anymore. It doesn't get pixelated. Whereas if I were to zoom in all the way in there, notice all this pixel. So this is vector image, and this is raster image. But we wanna convert this line, just the black lines right here. We wanna convert that to vector image. So what we're gonna do is a little thing called image trace in Adobe Illustrator. So this becomes really handy tools if you're more of a pencil on paper kind of digital artist. You have to feel that friction of the pencil to really draw something nicely. So, which I happen to be one of those. So I always draw on a piece of paper and then convert that into vector image. So Or if you don't own like a drawing tablet, this is really nice. But I don't think those drawing tablets doesn't really do that well compared to just pencil on paper. So, well, let's get on to this. So what we want to do is we want to go to first we make sure that you're selected on this guy right here, which is selection tool. Click that, and then we're gonna select this image. Notice that we got this big X right here showing that this is selected, and we're gonna go to window. We're gonna go to image trace right here, and it's gonna prompt this little guy right here. And what we want to do is we want to hit the preview. So depending how fast your computer is, it might take a minute or two, but mostly it'll do quite fast. So now everything's cleared up. Notice that, but we still got a little bit of here and there. And let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, notice that the lines are no longer pixelated because we just convert that into vector image. So if I were to undo, it used to be like this, and now it's looking like this. So I'm gonna hit preview, and now it's converted to the vector image. But if you take the picture with like some kind of, if the paper has too much stain or smudge or texture, the image trace might not work very well. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you an example of that. Okay, so taking a good picture really does matter in this case. Also, drawing a drawing on a clean piece of paper is really important as well. So I'm gonna show you an example with one with my shadow on my hand. Okay, then if I were to try to image trace it, it'll create this big, the computer is gonna register that shadow as a part of the drawing. We don't want that, believe it or not. Computers are quite dumb unless smart people uses it. So we need to be smart about how we use the computer. So even with this is not that big of a deal since it still has that clear line around it. So we might be able to just select this black lines right here. So how we do that is we're gonna hit the preview, and then we're gonna play around with this threshold right here. So if I were to increase it, it's gonna try to grab more stuff. But if I were to lower it, it's only gonna grab. So if I were to grab 1, it doesn't really do anything. 7 is trying to grab a little bit, so its threshold is getting higher. So I'm just gonna increase it to the point where it just grabs the black lines. But it looks like it's gonna be really hard to get the perfect amount of threshold without losing any element, but nope, I think that is good. So 61 was our magic number. Okay, but if you zoom in a little bit, sometimes it gets a little sharp like this, so you can always fix it with the advanced option right here. So we're gonna click the advanced, and then you're gonna bring out all these different menus. Only two things that we really need to worry about is those paths and corners. I mean, there are more options that you can play around, but at this moment I don't recommend doing that, because with just these two knobs we can do most of the things that we want to do. So we're gonna lower it. Then you notice how it changes by altering it. So more I do, it gets a little bit more complicated. If I were to do 100%, yeah, then we don't want that. If I were to do 1%, no, we don't want that either. So I'm gonna leave it at 51% because it look good on the 50%. And corners is gonna round things up a little bit more. So that's looking good. But if I were to do that, that's also looking good. So it's just personal preference, I guess. So So I'm gonna do 100%. Sorry, excuse me. So 100% is good. So now we successfully image traced our first pen drawing. Now, if I were to try to do anything, I can't really select just the black lines right here. Oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, I don't want that. Notice that this is still, we cannot just select the black lines here. So what do we do is we want to select one more time, and then if you make sure that you're on a go to Window Workspace and Essential Classic Workspace environment. If you're on a Essential Classic environment, you'll see this little button called Expand. So we're gonna hit Expand. Now it's gonna convert everything into paths and objects. So right now each elements are separated. So just this black line is separated, and this white space is separated, and this also outer white space is separated. So if I were to create a background, and then if I were to, so I just sent it to the back, and notice that there's a white space right here, also white space here, and then black space right here. So how do we get rid of this? How do we just get the black line? Easiest way to do is just by clicking one by one. So before you do that, you need to ungroup these elements. So to ungroup, you need to select this group and right click, and then there's ungroup option right here. So if I were to select ungroup, I can select just this guy and just the inner part right here, and just the inner part right here, here, and here. And also just this black line right here, but obviously this is not connected, it is separated. So I'm gonna undo. So after you ungroup, I'm gonna start deleting one by one. So I don't want this white space, I don't want this white space, inner white space, delete that, and delete this. So now we only have that black lines left. So right now I don't need, but if your drawing gets complicated and there's like a million different white spaces that you need to choose, an easy way to do is selecting every object that shares the same fill color, which happens to be, in this case, would be white. Since this space right here is also white, this space right here is also white, this is also white, this is also white. So we want to select all the elements that has the fill color of white. So what we are going to do is we're going to go to select right here. We're going to same, and we're going to select fill color. So what this means is, I'm going to try to explain in a plain English. So you notice that this is right now, this is select as white right here. Make sure that it's pure white, or you can always go to eyedropper right here and then select this, and then it's gonna copy that color to this color palette right here. If I were to do that, it's gonna convert to red. But if I were to click right here, it's white. So make sure that is selected white. So what this means is, it's gonna select all the elements that has the same fill color of white right here. So it's gonna select all the elements that shares the same fill color of white right here. So if I were to hit fill color right here, it's gonna select all the elements that share the same fill color of white. So after I do that, if I were to just click the delete button, it's gonna erase all the elements that was selected by that function. So right now, and after that, if I want to delete the red element, you can also do this, but in this case it's not necessary because it's just one element. But just the sake of the demo, I'm going to show. So now, since the red is selected, I'm going to select all the same elements, all the elements that share the same fill color of red, selected color of red right here. So fill color and delete, and it's going to delete everything. So that is how you convert the pen drawing into vector drawing. So if I were to zoom in all the way in, it's not going to get pixelated. Whereas this one, if I were to zoom in all the way, it's going to get pixelated. So you see this difference right here? To this guy, to this guy. Well, I much prefer this guy, and this is much easier to work with. So vector, when it comes to vector image, it's really kind of tricky to create one because it's not as intuitive as creating a raster image with the Photoshop or anything like that. Whereas you can just start painting and then it renders as the image. But it takes a little bit more time and it's a little bit more confusing. But if you do everything right, it's so much easier to work with because you're not bound by the quality of the picture. At the same time, you can always alter the shape much easier. Okay, so that is how you convert the pen drawing into the vector image in Illustrator using image trace.